Warriors and Valkyries, welcome to our Hall of Norse Tales. Before we embark on our journey through the fjords of imagination, don't forget to join our tribe. Ring the notification bell, raise your axes by giving a like, and leave in the comments which realm you're watching from. Now, settle close to the hearth, for our saga is about to begin. In the remote fjords of ancient Norway, nestled between towering mountains and the vast, restless sea, lay the peaceful village of Fjordheim. Life here had always followed the rhythms of nature, the ebb and flow of tides, the changing of seasons, the dance of the northern lights. But on this particular morning, as the first rays of dawn crept over the horizon, something extraordinary was about to unfold. Young Arne stirred in his bed, rubbed his eyes, and blinked in confusion. The room seemed different, brighter somehow, as if the very air was aglow. He scrambled to the window, his heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Astrid, wake up, he called to his twin sister, his voice a whisper tinged with awe. You have to see this. Astrid groaned and buried her face deeper into her pillow. Go back to sleep, Arne. It's too early for your games. But Arne was insistent. It's not a game, sister. The world. It's changed. Curiosity finally got the better of Astrid. She joined her brother at the window and her breath caught in her throat. The village before them was bathed in an otherworldly light, shimmering and iridescent like the inside of an abalone shell. By the gods, Astrid whispered. What is happening? The twins quickly dressed and rushed outside, joining the growing crowd of villagers who had emerged from their homes, all staring skyward in wonder and disbelief. There, arching across the heavens in a brilliant display of color, was a bridge unlike anything they had ever seen. The Bifrost, murmured old Eric, the village elder, his weathered face a mixture of reverence and fear. The rainbow bridge of legend, it has come to Midgard. Arne tugged at the elder's sleeve. But how, Eric? Why here? Why now? The old man shook his head slowly. The ways of the gods are mysterious, young one. But if the Bifrost has appeared, it can only mean great change is coming. As if in answer to his words, a shimmer of movement caught everyone's eye. At the base of the bridge, where it touched the earth just beyond the village boundary, a figure began to take shape. Tall and majestic, clad in gleaming armor with a horned helm upon his brow, he regarded the villagers with eyes that shone like captured stars. People of Midgard. His voice boomed, carrying easily across the distance. I am Heimdall, guardian of the Bifrost. A great disturbance has caused the barriers between realms to weaken, and the Rainbow Bridge has manifested in your world. A murmur of awe and fear rippled through the crowd. Astrid, always the bolder of the twins, stepped forward. Great Heimdall, she called out, her voice trembling only slightly. What does this mean for our village? Are we in danger? Heimdall's gaze softened as it fell upon the young girl. Brave child, you are right to be concerned. The appearance of the Bifrost brings both wonder and peril. Creatures from other realms may cross into Midgard, some friendly, others less so. Arne, emboldened by his sister's courage, spoke up as well. How can we protect ourselves? We're just simple folk, not warriors or magicians. A smile played at the corners of Heimdall's mouth. Sometimes, young one, the greatest heroes come from the humblest beginnings. Your village stands at a crossroads of worlds now. You must be vigilant, kind to those who come in peace, and stalwart against those who would do harm. As the god spoke, the light from the Bifrost seemed to pulse and shimmer, casting rainbow hues across the faces of the villagers. Children laughed in delight, reaching out to touch the colorful beams while their parents watched with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. Old Eric stepped forward, leaning on his gnarled staff. Great Heimdall, we are honored by your presence, but surely there are others more suited to this task. Why not appear to kings or great warriors? Heimdall's starry gaze swept across the assembled villagers. It is not always strength of arm or political power that determines the course of fate. Sometimes, it is the strength of heart found in unexpected places that can change the world. As he spoke, his eyes lingered on Arna and Astrid. The twins felt a warmth spread through them, as if they were basking in the light of a summer sun. The days ahead will bring challenges, Heimdall continued, but also opportunities for growth and understanding. Embrace the change, learn from those you meet, and above all, stand together. With those words, Heimdall's form began to shimmer and fade. As he disappeared, a gentle rain of sparkling light fell over the village, leaving everything it touched with a faint, magical glow. Arna and Astrid looked at each other, a mix of excitement and trepidation in their eyes. "What do you think will happen now?" Arna whispered. Astrid grasped her brother's hand tightly. "I don't know," she replied, "but whatever comes, we'll face it together." As the villagers slowly dispersed, talking in hushed, excited tones, the twins remained, their gazes fixed on the magnificent rainbow bridge arching across the sky. The world as they knew it had changed in the blink of an eye, and deep in their hearts they knew their greatest adventure was just beginning. The light of the Bifrost danced across the fjord, turning the usually dark waters into a kaleidoscope of color. As night fell instead of darkness, Fjordheim was bathed in the gentle, ever-changing hues of the rainbow bridge, a constant reminder that their quiet corner of Midgard now stood at the crossroads of all 9 realms. The village of Fjordheim had never known a night like this. The Bifrost Bridge, a cascade of shimmering colors, stretched across the sky, its light painting the fjord and mountains in ethereal hues. Most villagers had retreated to their homes, but sleep eluded the young twins, Arna and Astrid. They sat on the roof of their family's longhouse, legs dangling over the edge, eyes fixed on the magical bridge that now connected their world to the realm of the gods. "Do you think we'll see more of them?" Arna asked, his voice hushed with excitement. "The gods, I mean." Astrid shrugged, her brow furrowed in thought. "I don't know, but something feels different. Can't you sense it?" Before Arna could respond, a gust of wind swept over them, carrying with it a faint whisper. Both children sat up straighter, straining to hear. "Did you hear that?" Astrid gasped, her eyes wide. Arna nodded, his face a mixture of awe and confusion. It sounded like someone was trying to speak to us. As if in response to his words, the whisper came again, louder this time. It was unlike any voice they had ever heard, ancient and powerful, yet as soft as a summer breeze. "Children of Midgard," it said, the words seeming to form directly in their minds. "Your world stands at the precipice of great change." Astrid, always the braver of the two, spoke up. Who are you?" A warm chuckle filled the air. "I am Frigga, Queen of Asgard and All-Mother. The Bifrost's unexpected appearance has thinned the veil between our worlds, allowing us to communicate." Arna's jaw dropped. "The All-Mother herself? But why speak to us? We're just children." "Age does not always equate to wisdom or worth, young Arnie." Frigga's voice replied gently. "You and your sister have been chosen for a great purpose." The twins exchanged a look of disbelief. Astrid, her voice trembling slightly, asked, "What purpose, All-Mother?" "The Bifrost's manifestation has opened pathways for beings from all realms to enter Midgard," Frigga explained. "Some come with curiosity, others with malice. Your village needs protectors, those who can hear our guidance and act as a bridge between the realms." Arna shook his head, overwhelmed. "But we don't know anything about protecting a village or dealing with beings from other realms." "That is why we will guide you." Another voice joined in, deeper and more resonant than Frigga's. "I am Odin, the All-Father. You will not be alone in this task." Astrid's eyes widened. "The All-Father too? This is incredible. But how can we hear you? No one else seems to be able to." Frigga's warm voice returned. The magic of the Bifrost has awakened a latent gift within you both. You can hear the whispers of Asgard, the voices of the gods. This gift will be crucial in the days to come. As if to demonstrate, a cacophony of voices suddenly filled the air around them. Whispers, murmurs, and distant calls in languages they didn't understand but somehow comprehended. The twins clutched each other, overwhelmed by the onslaught of sound. "Peace, children." Odin's voice cut through the noise, silencing the others. "You must learn to control this gift, to listen when needed and to quiet the voices when they become too much." Arna, his face pale, looked at his sister. "Astrid, this is too much. We can't possibly do this." But Astrid's expression had changed. There was a new determination in her eyes. "We have to try, Arna. Our village needs us. The gods themselves have chosen us." Frigga's voice came again, filled with warmth and encouragement. "Your sister speaks wisely, Arna. Have faith in yourselves and in each other. We will teach you." Over the next hours, as the village slept peacefully below, Arna and Astrid sat on the roof, listening to the whispers from Asgard. The gods taught them how to focus their hearing, how to interpret the messages they received, and how to use this knowledge to protect their people. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues that rivaled even the Bifrost, the twins climbed down from the roof, changed in ways that went far beyond the bags under their eyes or the newfound determination in their steps. "Are you ready for this?" Arna asked his sister as they paused at the door to their home. Astrid took a deep breath and nodded. "Together, brother. We'll face whatever comes together." As they stepped inside, a final whisper reached their ears, Frigga's voice, filled with pride and hope. "Remember, children of Midgard, you are never alone. Listen for our whispers, and we will guide you through the challenges ahead." The door closed behind them, but the twins knew their greatest adventure was just beginning. The whispers from Asgard had changed their lives forever, and with this new gift came a responsibility they were only beginning to understand. But with the gods' guidance and each other's support, Arna and Astrid were ready to become the protectors their village needed in this new age of magic and wonder. The village of Fjordheim buzzed with nervous energy. It had been 3 days since the Bifrost Bridge appeared, stretching its rainbow arc across the sky. 3 days of wonder, fear, and whispered conversations. For Arna and Astrid, it had been 3 days of secret nightly lessons, listening to the whispers of the gods and trying to make sense of their new reality. As the twins made their way through the village square, they overheard snippets of conversation. "Did you see that strange light last night?" one villager whispered. "Aye, and I heard odd noises too, like music but not quite," another replied. Arna glanced at Astrid. They both knew the truth. A group of light elves had crossed the Bifrost, curious about Midgard. The twins had guided them back before anyone could spot them, thanks to Freya's whispered warnings and advice. "We can't keep this up forever," Arna murmured to his sister. "Sooner or later, someone's going to see something we can't explain away." Astrid nodded, her face etched with worry. "I know, but what choice do we have? We're the only ones who can hear the gods, the only ones who know what's really happening." As if summoned by their conversation, a blinding light suddenly engulfed the village square. Villagers cried out in shock, shielding their eyes. When the radiance faded, a tall, imposing figure stood before them, his golden armor gleaming in the sunlight. "Heimdall," Astrid breathed, recognizing the guardian of the Bifrost from the god's descriptions. The god's gaze swept over the assembled villagers, finally settling on Arna and Astrid. His eyes, shining like twin supernovas, seemed to peer into their very souls. "People of Fjordheim," Heimdall's voice rang out clear and powerful. "I come with a message from Asgard. The appearance of the Bifrost in your realm was no accident, but a sign of great change to come." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Old Eric, the village elder, stepped forward. "Great Heimdall, what does this mean for us? Are we in danger?" Heimdall's expression softened slightly. All change brings both opportunity and risk, Elder. But fear not, for Asgard has not left you defenseless. His gaze returned to the twins. Arna and Astrid, step forward. The crowd parted, all eyes turning to the young siblings. Arna felt his heart pounding as he and Astrid approached the god. These young ones, Heimdall announced, have been chosen as guardians of the Bifrost in Midgard. They alone can hear the whispers of the gods, and through them, we shall guide and protect your village. Gasps and exclamations of disbelief echoed through the square. Arna and Astrid's parents pushed through the crowd, their faces a mixture of fear and confusion. But they're just children, their mother cried out. Heimdall nodded solemnly. Young they may be, but they possess a strength of spirit that transcends age. And now, they shall receive the power to match their courage. The god placed a hand on each twin's shoulder. Arna felt a surge of energy course through him, warm and electrifying. Beside him, Astrid gasped, her eyes widening in wonder. I bestow upon you a fraction of my sight, Heimdall intoned. Your eyes shall shine with the light of 1,000 stars, allowing you to see beyond the veil of realms. As he spoke, Arna felt a tingling sensation in his eyes. He blinked, and suddenly the world looked different. Colors were more vibrant, and he could see faint, shimmering outlines around people and objects. Their life force, he realized with a start. Wow, Astrid whispered beside him. Arna, can you see? Yeah, he nodded, awestruck. It's amazing. Heimdall continued, his voice resonating with power. With this gift comes great responsibility. You must use it wisely to protect your people and maintain the balance between realms. The god turned to address the villagers. These young ones will be your guardians, your link to Asgard. Trust in them, for they carry the blessings of the gods. With those words, Heimdall began to fade, his form becoming translucent. Just before he disappeared entirely, he looked once more at Arna and Astrid. Remember, young guardians, with great power comes great duty. We will be watching. In a flash of rainbow light, Heimdall vanished, leaving behind a stunned silence. Then all at once the village erupted in a cacophony of voices. Arna! Astrid! Their father pushed through the crowd, reaching for them. Are you all right? What did he do to you? Astrid took her father's hand, her eyes, now shimmering with an otherworldly light, meeting his. We're fine, father. Better than fine, actually. Arna nodded, still trying to process everything. It's hard to explain, but we can see things now, things we couldn't before. Old Eric approached, leaning heavily on his staff. By the gods, he muttered, staring at the twins' star-filled eyes. It's true then, you've been touched by divine power. The twins exchanged a glance, a silent conversation passing between them. Finally, Astrid spoke, her voice carrying a new note of authority. Yes, Elder, and we swear by that power that we will do everything we can to protect our village. Arnie straightened his shoulders, feeling the weight of responsibility settling upon them. We may be young, but we're ready for this task. We won't let you down. As the crowd pressed closer, asking questions and marveling at their changed appearance, Arna and Astrid stood tall. They were no longer just two village children, but Heimdall's chosen, guardians of the Bifrost in Midgard. The path ahead would be challenging, filled with wonders and dangers from across the 9 realms. But with their new powers, the guidance of the gods, and each other, Arna and Astrid were ready to face whatever came through the Rainbow Bridge. Their greatest adventure had only just begun. The sun had barely peeked over the horizon when Arna and Astrid set out for their morning patrol of Fjordheim. It had been a week since Heimdall bestowed his gift upon them, and the weight of responsibility still felt new and somewhat uncomfortable on their young shoulders. As they walked along the village outskirts, Astrid nudged her brother. Hey, do you see that? She pointed towards the forest edge, where a faint, shimmering distortion was visible. Arna squinted, his star-filled eyes focusing on the anomaly. Yeah, I do. What do you think it is? Before Astrid could respond, a booming voice filled their minds. Children of Midgard, be wary. A portal is forming. Heimdall? Arna whispered, still not used to the gods' unexpected communications. Indeed, the voice confirmed. A creature from another realm approaches. This will be your first true test as guardians. Astrid's face paled slightly, but she squared her shoulders. What should we do? Face this challenge with courage, Heimdall advised. Remember, true bravery is not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. With those parting words, the god's presence faded, leaving the twins alone before the shimmering portal. As they watched, the distortion grew, stretching and widening, until it formed a swirling vortex of otherworldly energy. Arna took an involuntary step back. Maybe we should get the adults, he suggested, his voice trembling slightly. Astrid grabbed his arm. No, Arna. Heimdall chose us for this. We have to face it. As if on cue, a massive form began to emerge from the portal. First came a giant scaled claw, followed by a long, serpentine neck. Finally, a dragon-like creature slithered fully into view, its eyes glowing with an eerie green light. Arna felt his knees go weak. By the gods, he whispered. What is that thing? The creature turned its gaze upon them, and a deep, rumbling voice filled their minds. I am Nidhogg, little ones. I have come from the roots of Yggdrasil, seeking new realms to explore. Astrid, though visibly shaken, managed to find her voice. Welcome to Midgard, Nidhogg. I am Astrid, and this is my brother Arna. We are the guardians of this realm. Nidhogg's laughter shook the ground beneath their feet. Guardians? You? Such tiny, fragile things. How amusing. Arna, fighting against his fear, stepped forward. We may be small, but we've been chosen by Heimdall himself. We protect this village and all who dwell here. The dragon's eyes narrowed. Is that so? Then prove your worth, little guardians. Show me the courage of Midgard. With a flick of its tail, Nidhogg uprooted a massive pine tree, sending it hurtling towards the village. Astrid reacted instantly, her eyes flaring with starlight as she focused her newfound powers. The tree froze in midair, suspended by an invisible force. Arni, inspired by his sister's bravery, felt a surge of courage. He raised his hands, channeling the energy Heimdall had gifted them. The tree slowly reversed its course, settling back into the ground as if it had never been disturbed. Nidhogg watched this display with growing interest. Impressive for one so young. But can you protect your people from this? The dragon reared back, its chest glowing as it prepared to unleash a blast of fire upon the village. Arna and Astrid exchanged a panicked glance. What do we do? Arna cried out. Astrid gritted her teeth. Together, brother. Remember what Heimdall said about courage. As Nidhogg released its fiery breath, the twins stood their ground. They raised their hands in unison, their eyes blazing with the light of 1,000 stars. A shimmering barrier sprang into existence before them, catching the dragon fire and dispersing it harmlessly into the air. Nidhogg ceased its attack, regarding the young guardians with newfound respect. Well done, children of Midgard. You have indeed proven your courage. Arna, his heart still racing, managed a shaky smile. Thank you, Nidhogg, but please, no more tests. Our village has done you no harm. Astrid nodded in agreement. You're welcome to visit our realm, but only in peace. Those are the terms of the Bifrost. The dragon considered this for a moment, then inclined its massive head. Very well, young guardians, I accept your terms. Your realm and its people shall remain unharmed by my claws and fire. As Nidhogg retreated back through the portal, Arni and Astrid finally allowed themselves to relax. They sank to the ground, the adrenaline leaving their bodies in a rush. We did it, Arna breathed, looking at his sister in amazement. We actually did it. Astrid nodded, a tired but proud smile on her face. We faced our first otherworldly threat, just like Heimdall said we would. As the portal shimmered and vanished, Leaving behind no trace of the extraordinary encounter, the twins heard Heimdall's voice one last time. "Well done, my chosen ones. You have taken your first steps on the path of true guardianship. Remember this day, for it is but the first of many challenges you will face." Arna and Astrid looked at each other, a new understanding passing between them. They had faced their fears and emerged victorious. They had protected their village and upheld the honor of Midgard before a creature of legend. As they made their way back to the village, walking taller and more confidently than before, Arna spoke softly to his sister. "You know, Astrid, I think I understand now what Heimdall meant about courage." Astrid smiled, taking her brother's hand. "Me too, Arna. It's not about not being scared. It's about doing what's right, even when you are scared." Together, the young guardians of Fjordheim returned home, forever changed by their first true test of courage. The path ahead would be filled with challenges, but they now knew that together they had the strength to face whatever might come through the Bifrost. The village of Fjordheim had settled into an uneasy routine in the weeks following the appearance of the Bifrost. Arna and Astrid, now known to all as the village's divine guardians, had grown more confident in their roles. Yet, they knew that each day could bring a new challenge from the realms beyond. On this particular morning, the twins were making their usual rounds when they noticed something odd in the village square. A crowd had gathered around a stranger, a tall, slender man with raven-black hair and a mischievous glint in his emerald eyes. "Who is that?" Arna whispered to his sister. Astrid shook her head, her star-filled eyes narrowing. "I don't know, but something feels off about him." As they approached, they could hear the stranger's silvery voice addressing the villagers. "Good people of Fjordheim," he announced with a flourish, "I am but a humble traveler come to share wonders from across the 9 realms." With a wave of his hand, glittering illusions appeared, fierce dragons, majestic castles, and otherworldly landscapes that left the villagers gasping in awe. Arna and Astrid exchanged a worried glance. They pushed through the crowd, their gifted senses tingling with warning. "Excuse me," Astrid called out, her voice carrying the authority of her position. "Who are you and how did you come to our village?" The stranger turned, his grin widening as he saw the twins. "Ah, the famous guardians of Fjordheim. I've heard so much about you." He bowed with exaggerated grace. "I am Loki, god of mischief at your service." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Arna felt a chill run down his spine. They had heard whispers from the gods about Loki, the trickster, the troublemaker. "What brings you to Midgard, Loki?" Arna asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Loki's eyes twinkled with amusement. "Why? To test the mettle of Heimdall's chosen ones, of course. The old grump thinks he can pick better guardians than I. We shall see about that." With a snap of his fingers, the illusions vanished, replaced by a swirling vortex of magic that enveloped the village square. "Here's a riddle for you, young guardians," Loki called out, his voice echoing strangely. "What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening?" Astrid frowned. "A riddle? Is this really the time for games?" Loki laughed, the sound both melodious and unsettling. "Oh, but everything is a game, my dear, and the stakes are quite high. Solve my riddles, and I'll leave your quaint little village in peace. Fail, and, well, let's just say things might get a bit chaotic." As if to demonstrate, he snapped his fingers again. Suddenly, the villagers began to change. Some grew fur and tails, others shrunk or expanded to impossible proportions. "Stop it," Arna shouted. "Change them back." Loki wagged a finger. Solve the riddle first. Tick-tock, young guardians." Arna and Astrid huddled together, their minds racing. 4 legs, 2 legs, 3 legs, Astrid muttered. What could it be? Arna's eyes widened with realization. Wait, I think I've heard this before. It's about the stages of life. Astrid gasped. Of course. A person crawls on 4 legs as a baby, Walks on two as an adult and uses a cane in old age. They turned to Loki. The answer is a human, they declared in unison. Loki clapped his hands, looking delighted. Well done, but we're far from finished. Over the next hour, Loki peppered them with riddles and puzzles, each more challenging than the last. With each correct answer, a few villagers returned to normal. With each wrong answer or hesitation, more chaos ensued. What can run but never walks, has a mouth but never talks, has a head but never weeps, has a bed but never sleeps? Loki asked, twirling a strand of his dark hair. Arna and Astrid conferred quietly, their brows furrowed in concentration. It sounds like it's describing a thing, not a person, Astrid mused. Arna nodded. Something that runs, with a mouth and a bed. His eyes lit up. A river. It must be a river. They gave their answer and Loki grinned widely. Clever children indeed. But how about this? I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with the wind. What am I? This one gave them pause. They looked around desperately, seeking inspiration. No body, but alive with wind, Astrid repeated softly. Her eyes fell on a nearby tree, its leaves rustling in the breeze. Could it be an echo? Arna's face brightened. Yes, that must be it. As they solved riddle after riddle, the twins found themselves enjoying the challenge despite the high stakes. Loki's tests forced them to think creatively, to see beyond the obvious and consider multiple perspectives. Finally, as the sun began to set, Loki posed his last riddle. This thing all things devours. Birds, beasts, trees, flowers, gnaws iron, bites steel, grinds hard stones to meal, slays king, ruins town, and beats high mountain down. The twins fell silent, the weight of this final challenge settling upon them. They could feel the eyes of the entire village upon them, waiting, hoping. Astrid closed her eyes, thinking hard. All things devours, gnaws iron, bites steel. Arnie suddenly snapped his fingers. Time! The answer is time! Loki's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Then he burst into delighted laughter. With a wave of his hand, the remaining chaos subsided, and the village returned to normal. Bravo, young guardians, he exclaimed. You've proven yourselves worthy adversaries indeed. Perhaps old Heimdall isn't as short-sighted as I thought. As Loki prepared to depart, he turned to the twins one last time. Remember this day, Arna and Astrid. In guarding the realms, strength of arm is important, but strength of mind is crucial. Keep sharpening those wits of yours. You'll need them in the days to come. With a wink and a swirl of green magic, the god of mischief vanished, leaving behind a village full of bewildered but unharmed people, and two young guardians who had just passed their most mentally challenging test yet. As the villagers dispersed, still chattering excitedly about the day's events, Arna turned to his sister. You know, Astrid, I think we just learned something important. Astrid nodded, a thoughtful expression on her face. That not every challenge can be met with strength alone. Sometimes the greatest weapon we have is right here. She tapped her temple with a smile. Together they walked home, their minds buzzing with new knowledge and the satisfaction of having outwitted the trickster god himself. They knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them not just with courage and power, but with wisdom and quick thinking as well. The crisp autumn air carried the scent of pine and sea salt as Arna and Astrid made their way through the forest surrounding Fjordheim. It had been months since the Bifrost's appearance, and the strain of their duties as guardians was beginning to show. We should split up, Arna suggested, his voice tinged with irritation. We can cover more ground that way. Astrid frowned, shaking her head. That's not a good idea, Arnie. We're stronger together, you know that. Are we? Arna snapped, surprising even himself with the bitterness in his voice. Lately, it feels like you're the one doing everything. The villagers look to you, not me. Astrid stopped in her tracks, turning to face her brother. What are you talking about? We're a team, Arna. We always have been. Before Arna could respond, a distant rumble caught their attention. The twins exchanged a quick glance, their argument momentarily forgotten as they raced towards the source of the sound. They burst into a clearing to find a massive frost giant locked in combat with a group of dwarves. The giant's icy breath froze everything it touched, while the dwarves countered with fiery blasts from their forges. "Stop!" Astrid cried out, her voice amplified by the power Heimdall had gifted them. Both parties paused, turning to look at the young guardians. Arna stepped forward, his star-filled eyes glowing with authority. "This is Midgard, and we are its protectors. Explain yourselves." The frost giant towering over them growled, "These dwarves trespassed into Jotunheim, stealing our ice crystals. We followed them here to reclaim what's ours." A stout dwarf with a flaming red beard retorted, "Lies. We found those crystals fair and square in the mines of Nidavellir. The giant attacked us as we were returning home." Astrid raised her hands, calling for calm. "Regardless of how this started, your battle cannot continue here. You're putting our realm and its people at risk." Arna nodded in agreement, feeling a surge of confidence. "We need to resolve this peacefully. Perhaps we can—" His words were cut short as the frost giant, losing patience, unleashed a blast of icy wind. Arna reacted instinctively, throwing up a protective barrier. But in his haste, he overextended his powers. The barrier flickered and failed, and Arna collapsed to his knees, drained. "Arna!" Astrid cried out, rushing to her brother's side. She glared at the giant, her eyes flashing dangerously. "That's enough." With a wave of her hand, she created a shimmering dome around the clearing, separating the frost giant from the dwarves. The strain of maintaining such a large barrier showed on her face, but she stood firm. "Now," she said, her voice tight with effort. "We're going to talk this out civilly, or none of you are leaving this clearing." As Astrid negotiated with the two parties, Arna watched from the ground, a mix of awe and shame washing over him. His sister was handling the situation with a grace and authority he felt he could never match. After what seemed like hours, a compromise was reached. The dwarves agreed to return half of the ice crystals, and the frost giant promised safe passage through a section of Jotunheim in return. As the otherworldly visitors departed through quickly conjured portals, Astrid finally let the barrier drop. She stumbled, exhausted, and Arna rushed to support her. "That was amazing, Astrid," he said softly, helping her sit on a fallen log. "I'm sorry I wasn't more help." Astrid shook her head, squeezing his hand. "Don't say that, Arna. I couldn't have done this without you." Arna scoffed. "How? I failed to maintain a simple barrier. You did everything." "No, brother," Astrid insisted. "Your presence gave me strength. Knowing you were here, that we were facing this together, that's what allowed me to keep going." As they sat there, catching their breath, a warm golden light enveloped them. The twins looked up to see Frigga, the All-Mother, shimmering into existence before them. "Well done, young guardians," she said, her voice filled with pride. "You faced a great test today." Arni lowered his head. "But I failed, All-Mother. I couldn't maintain my powers." Frigga smiled gently. "The test was not of your individual strengths, Arni, but of the bond between you. True power lies not in what you can do alone, but in how you support and complement each other." She waved her hand, and the twins felt a surge of warm energy flow through them. "Your bond of blood is strong, but the bond of your shared purpose, your love for each other and your people, that is a magic more powerful than any gift we could bestow." As Frigga's form began to fade, she left them with one last piece of wisdom. "Remember, young ones, in the darkest times when all seems lost, you will always have each other. That is your greatest strength." With those words, the goddess vanished, leaving Arna and Astrid alone in the clearing. They sat in silence for a moment, absorbing the All-Mother's words. Finally, Arna turned to his sister. "I'm sorry, Astrid. I've been foolish, letting my insecurities get the better of me." Astrid smiled, pulling him into a tight hug. We're in this together, brother. Always have been, always will be. As they made their way back to the village, a new understanding passed between them. They were two halves of a whole, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, but unbeatable when united. The challenges ahead would be great, but Arne and Astrid now understood the true source of their power. It wasn't in the gifts from the gods or their individual abilities, but in the unbreakable bond they shared. With this knowledge, they were ready to face whatever the 9 realms might throw at them, standing side by side as the guardians of Fjordheim. The winter had come early to Fjordheim, bringing with it a chill that seemed to seep into the very bones of the village. Arne and Astrid, the young guardians of the Bifrost, huddled together near the great hearth in the center of the village, their eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of trouble. It's colder than usual, Arne remarked, his breath visible in the frigid air. Astrid nodded, her star-filled eyes narrowing. Something's not right. Can you feel it? Before Arne could respond, a commotion erupted at the edge of the village. The twins exchanged a quick glance before racing towards the source of the disturbance. As they approached, they saw a group of villagers backing away from a towering figure that had emerged from the forest. It was a frost giant child, no taller than the village's longhouses, but still dwarfing the humans around it. "Stop!" Astrid called out, her voice carrying the authority of her position. "Everyone, stay calm!" The frost giant child turned towards them, its icy blue eyes wide with fear and confusion. I didn't mean to scare anyone," it said, its voice a rumble that shook the ground beneath their feet. "I'm lost." Arne stepped forward, his hand raised in a gesture of peace. "It's all right. We're not going to hurt you. I'm Arne, and this is my sister Astrid. What's your name?" The young giant sniffled, a sound like cracking ice. "Hrimthursar. But my parents call me Hrim." Astrid's expression softened. "How did you get here, Hrim? Did you come through the Bifrost?" Hrim nodded, icy tears forming at the corners of its eyes. "I was playing near the Rainbow Bridge. I just wanted to see what was on the other side. But now I can't find my way back home." The twins exchanged a worried look. They knew the dangers of a frost giant in Midgard, even a young one. The cold emanating from Hrim was already affecting the village, causing crops to wither and water to freeze. "We need to get him back to Jotunheim," Arne whispered to Astrid. But how? As they pondered their dilemma, an elderly villager stepped forward, her wizened face creased with concern. "The poor thing looks half frozen itself," she said. "Giant or not, it's just a child. We can't send it away without help." Astrid blinked in surprise. "But the cold, it's damaging the village." The old woman shook her head. "Sometimes, child, the warmth of compassion can melt the coldest of hearts. Perhaps that's what's needed here." Inspired by the elder's words, Astrid approached Hrim. "Would you like to come with us? We can try to help you get home, but first, let's get you somewhere comfortable." Hrim's face lit up, quite literally, as patterns of frost danced across its blue skin. "Really? You'd help me?" Arne nodded, managing a smile despite his apprehension. "Of course, that's what we do here in Fjordheim. We help those in need." They led Hrim to the Great Hall, the largest building in the village. As they entered, the twins used their divine gifts to create a protective barrier, containing the giant's frigid aura to minimize damage to the surroundings. Over the next few hours, the villagers of Fjordheim showed Hrim a kindness it had never experienced outside its own realm. They brought blankets, which looked comically small draped over the giant's massive form, and told stories of Midgard's history and customs. In return, Hrim shared tales of Jotunheim, of vast ice palaces and aurora-lit skies. The giant child's initial fear melted away, replaced by curiosity and wonder at these tiny, warm beings who had welcomed it so openly. As night fell, Arne and Astrid sat with Hrim, planning their journey to the Bifrost site the next day. Suddenly, Hrim's eyes widened in realization. "The cold," it said, looking around in wonder. It's not spreading anymore." The twins noticed it too. The chill that had accompanied Hrim's arrival had diminished significantly. Astrid reached out and touched Hrim's hand, surprised to find it cool but not freezing. "Hrim," she said softly, "I think you're adapting to our realm. Your heart? It's warming." Tears of joy formed in Hrim's eyes, freezing instantly into diamond-like droplets that clinked to the floor. "I've never felt like this before. In Jotunheim, everything is always so cold. But here I feel warm inside." Arne smiled, patting the giant's massive arm. "That's the magic of friendship, Hrim. It can bridge any gap even between realms." The next morning, as they prepared to escort Hrim back to the Bifrost site, the entire village turned out to bid farewell to their unusual guest. The frost giant child, once a source of fear, had become a friend. As they reached the shimmering portal of the Bifrost, Hrim turned to the twins. "Thank you," it said, its voice thick with emotion. "I'll never forget the kindness of Fjordheim." Astrid smiled warmly. "And we'll never forget you, Hrim. Remember, you're always welcome here." With a final wave, Hrim stepped through the portal, returning to Jotunheim. But as the Bifrost's light faded, something remarkable happened. A small patch of frost flowers, beautiful crystalline blooms never before seen in Midgard, sprouted from where Hrim had stood. Arne knelt to examine the flowers, his eyes wide with wonder. "Look, Astrid, a gift from Jotunheim." Astrid nodded, her heart full. And a reminder that friendship can bloom in the most unexpected places. As they walked back to the village, the twins reflected on the lesson they had learned. In their role as guardians, they had expected to face threats and challenges from other realms. Instead, they had found that sometimes the greatest magic comes not from confrontation, but from compassion and understanding. The story of Hrim, the frost giant child with a heart warmed by kindness, would be told in Fjordheim for generations to come. It stood as a testament to the power of empathy to bridge the gaps between realms, and as a reminder that even in the coldest of times, the warmth of friendship could thaw the mightiest of barriers. The mist rolled in thick and heavy over Fjordheim, obscuring the village in a ghostly shroud. Arne and Astrid stood atop the village's watchtower, their star-filled eyes piercing through the fog, ever vigilant for signs of danger from the Bifrost. "There's something different about this mist," Astrid murmured, her brow furrowed in concentration. Arne nodded, a shiver running down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold. "I feel it too. It's almost as if—" His words trailed off as a haunting sound drifted through the air, the distant clash of steel on steel, the battle cries of warriors long past. "By the gods," Astrid whispered, "what is that?" Before Arne could respond, a figure emerged from the mist. It was a warrior clad in ancient armor, his form translucent and glowing with an otherworldly light. Behind him, more spectral figures appeared, an entire host of ghostly warriors marching towards the village. Panic gripped the twins. Arne raised his hand, ready to erect a protective barrier, but Astrid stayed his arm. "Wait," she said, her voice hushed. "They don't seem hostile. Look." Indeed, the spectral warriors made no aggressive moves. Instead, they gathered in the village square, their ethereal forms passing through solid objects as if they weren't there. The twins descended from the watchtower and cautiously approached the gathering. As they drew near, the lead warrior turned to face them, his weathered face bearing the scars of countless battles. "Hail, young guardians," the warrior's voice boomed, echoing with the weight of ages. "I am Sigurd Battleborn, and we are the Einherjar, the honored dead of Valhalla." Arne and Astrid exchanged a bewildered glance before Astrid spoke up. "Welcome to Fjordheim, Sigurd Battleborn. I am Astrid, and this is my brother Arne. We are the guardians of the Bifrost in this realm. What brings you to Midgard?" Sigurd's ghostly form seemed to sigh, a sound like wind through ancient trees. "The barriers between realms grow thin, young ones. Odin himself has sent us to share our knowledge with the people of Midgard, to prepare them for the challenges that lie ahead. By now, the commotion had drawn the villagers from their homes. They gathered at the edges of the square, a mix of fear and awe on their faces as they beheld the spectral warriors. Arne stepped forward, his voice carrying the authority of his position. People of Fjordheim, do not be afraid. These are the honored dead of Valhalla, come to share their wisdom with us. An elderly villager leaning heavily on his staff approached the gathering. I am Eric Greybeard, elder of Fjordheim. What wisdom do you bring us, warriors of Valhalla? Sigurd turned to the old man, respect evident in his ghostly eyes. We bring tales of valor, of battles won and lost, of honor and sacrifice. But more than that, we bring a warning. The 9 realms are changing, and Midgard must be prepared. Over the next hours, as the mist swirled around them, the Einherjar shared their stories. They spoke of great battles against frost giants and fire demons, of quests for magical artifacts, and of the honor of dining in Odin's hall. Arne and Astrid listened intently, their young minds absorbing every detail. They realized that these weren't just stories of past glories, but lessons in strategy, courage, and the art of war. As dawn approached, Sigurd gathered the twins aside. You bear a great responsibility, young guardians. The defense of Midgard rests on your shoulders. Astrid nodded solemnly. We understand, Sigurd, but sometimes it feels like too much. We're just children. The ghostly warrior's laugh was like distant thunder. Aye, you are young, but it is not the years in your life that matter, but the life in your years. You have been chosen for this task because you are worthy. Arne frowned, voicing a fear that had long plagued him. But what if we fail? What if we're not strong enough? Sigurd's form seemed to solidify for a moment as he placed a hand on each of their shoulders. The twins felt a chill, but also a surge of strength and courage. Strength is not merely in the arm that wields the sword, Sigurd said, his voice low and intense. It is in the heart that beats for others, in the mind that seeks wisdom, and in the spirit that never surrenders. You have all of these in abundance. As the first rays of dawn began to pierce the mist, the Einherjar began to fade. Sigurd turned to address the village one last time. People of Fjordheim, heed our words. Dark times may come, but remember the strength that lies within you. Stand together, fight for each other, and know that the eyes of Valhalla are upon you. With a final salute, the spectral warriors vanished, leaving behind a village forever changed by their visit. As the mist cleared, Arne and Astrid stood side by side, watching the sunrise. The weight of their responsibility felt heavier than ever, but so did their resolve. We have much to learn, Arne said quietly. Astrid nodded, a determined smile on her face. And we will learn it, brother. For Fjordheim, for Midgard, and for all the realms. As they made their way back to the village, the twins could almost hear the approving murmur of the Einherjar on the wind. The echoes of Valhalla had touched Fjordheim, leaving behind not just tales of past glories but hope for the future, and the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The village buzzed with excitement and purpose. The visit of the Einherjar had awakened something in the people of Fjordheim, a sense of their place in the grand tapestry of the 9 realms, and a determination to live up to the legacy of their ancestors. For Arne and Astrid, the experience had been transformative. They had always known their duty was important, but now they understood the true weight of their responsibility. They were not just guardians of a village, but protectors of a realm, links in a chain that stretched back to the legendary heroes of Valhalla, and forward into an uncertain but hopeful future. As they prepared for another day of vigilance, the twins exchanged a look of understanding. The echoes of Valhalla would resonate within them always, a constant reminder of the honor, courage, and wisdom they aspired to embody in their sacred duty as guardians of the Bifrost. The sky above Fjordheim churned with ominous dark clouds, flashes of lightning illuminating the turbulent heavens. The Bifrost, usually a vibrant rainbow, now pulsed with chaotic energy, its colors shifting and swirling erratically. Arna and Astrid stood at the edge of the village, their star-filled eyes wide with concern as they watched the gathering storm. "This is no ordinary tempest," Astrid said, her voice barely audible over the howling wind. Arna nodded grimly. Thor's work, no doubt. He must be trying to mend the Bifrost. As if in response to his words, a deafening thunderclap shook the ground, causing the villagers to cry out in fear. The twins exchanged a worried glance before hurrying back to the center of Fjordheim. "Everyone, please remain calm," Astrid called out, her voice magically amplified to be heard over the storm. "Take shelter in the Great Hall. We'll see this through together." As the villagers hurried to obey, an elderly woman approached the twins, fear etched on her weathered face. "Young guardians, what's happening? Is this the end of days?" Arna placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "No, Grandmother Helga. The god of thunder works to repair the Bifrost, but his efforts cause great disturbance in our realm. We'll keep you safe, I promise." As they ushered the last of the villagers into the Great Hall, a blinding flash of lightning struck nearby, leaving behind a figure crackling with electric energy. The twins instinctively dropped into defensive stances before recognizing the newcomer. "Lady Sif!" Astrid exclaimed, relaxing slightly. "What brings you to Midgard in such tumultuous times?" The warrior goddess strode towards them, her armor gleaming despite the gloom. "Young guardians, I come bearing news and a plea for aid. Thor labors to mend the Bifrost, but the task proves more challenging than anticipated. The storm of his efforts threatens all the realms, Midgard most of all." Arne's brow furrowed in concern. "How can we help? We're but novice guardians. Surely the gods are better equipped." Sif raised a hand to silence him. "It is precisely because you are of Midgard that you can help. The Bifrost's anchor in this realm needs stabilizing, and only those native to this world can do so without further damaging the delicate balance." Another thunderclap shook the village, and screams emanated from the Great Hall. Astrid looked torn between their duty to the village and the larger threat at hand. "But our people need us here," she said, gesturing towards the hall. "We can't abandon them." Sif's expression softened. "Your devotion does you credit, young Astrid. But sometimes, to protect those closest to us, we must step back and address the larger threat. Come, I will show you what must be done." Reluctantly, the twins followed Sif to the Bifrost site. The usually beautiful rainbow bridge was now a maelstrom of color and lightning, its energies lashing out wildly. "You must use your connection to Midgard to calm the Bifrost's energies here," Sif instructed. "Focus on your love for your realm, your people. Let that ground the bridge's power." Arna and Astrid joined hands, closing their eyes as they concentrated. They thought of Fjordheim, of the villagers they'd sworn to protect, of the beauty of Midgard in all its seasons. Slowly, a warm, golden light began to emanate from them, pushing back against the chaotic energies of the storm. But the task proved monumentally difficult. Every time they seemed to make progress, another thunderclap would undo their work. Sweat beaded on their brows as they struggled to maintain their focus. "It's too much," Arna gasped, his knees buckling under the strain. "We're not strong enough." Astrid gripped his hand tighter. "We can't give up, brother. Our people are counting on us." As they battled against the storm, a soft melody began to weave through the howling wind. The twins' eyes snapped open in surprise. There, braving the tempest, stood the villagers of Fjordheim. Led by Grandmother Helga, they were singing an ancient Norse lullaby, their voices joining together in harmony. "Sleep, sleep, great Thor's storm. Let peace come with the morn. Midgard stands strong and true, in calm and tempest too." The simple song seemed to resonate with the very fabric of Midgard. The twins felt a surge of strength, their golden light growing brighter. The chaotic energies of the Bifrost began to calm, the colors settling into their usual vibrant hues. Sif watched in amazement as the storm gradually subsided, the sky clearing to reveal a breathtaking sunset. "By the All-Father," she breathed, "I've never seen anything like it." As the last notes of the lullaby faded away, Arna and Astrid released their joined hands, exhausted but triumphant. The villagers cheered, rushing forward to embrace their young guardians. "You did it!" Grandmother Helga exclaimed, happy tears in her eyes. "You calmed the storm." Astrid shook her head, smiling warmly at the assembled villagers. "No, we all did it. Your song, your unwavering spirit, that was the true magic that soothed the Bifrost." Arna nodded in agreement. "We may be the guardians, but the strength of Fjordheim lies in all of its people." Sif approached the twins, bowing her head in respect. "You have done a great service not just to Midgard, but to all the realms this day. Thor will be most pleased and impressed. You've proven that the strength of Midgard lies not just in its appointed guardians, but in the unity of its people." As Sif prepared to depart, she turned to address the villagers. "People of Fjordheim never forget this day. In the face of godly storms, it was your mortal voices that sang the lullaby that calmed the heavens. Keep that song in your hearts, for it is a power beyond even the gods." With a final nod of respect, Sif vanished in a crackle of lightning, leaving behind a village forever changed by their experience. As night fell, the village celebrated their victory. The Bifrost shimmered peacefully in the distance, its colors a gentle reminder of the bridge between realms. Arna and Astrid sat together, watching their people dance and sing. "You know, Astrid," Arna said softly, "I think we learned something important today." Astrid smiled, understanding in her eyes that our true strength lies not in godly gifts, but in our connection to our people and our realm. Arna nodded. "Exactly. The storm's lullaby wasn't just a song. It was a reminder of who we are and what we're fighting for." As the celebration continued around them, the twins felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were guardians not just of the Bifrost, but of the spirit of Midgard itself. And with the support of their people, there was no storm, godly or otherwise, that they couldn't weather together. The first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, casting a warm glow over the village of Fjordheim. Arna and Astrid stood atop the hill overlooking their home, their eyes fixed on the Bifrost Bridge. The once vibrant rainbow was now fading, its colors dimming as the first rays of sunlight touched its ethereal surface. "It's really happening," Astrid whispered, her voice a mixture of awe and sadness. "The Bifrost is closing." Arna nodded solemnly, reaching out to squeeze his sister's hand. "We knew this day would come. Thor has finally managed to repair the breach." As they watched, villagers began to gather at the base of the hill, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. Old Eric, the village elder, made his way slowly up the slope, leaning heavily on his gnarled staff. "Young guardians," he called out, his voice wavering with age and emotion. "What news do you bring us this dawn?" Arna and Astrid exchanged a glance before Arna spoke, his voice carrying to the assembled crowd. "Good people of Fjordheim, the time has come. The Bifrost, which has been our bridge to the realms beyond, is closing. Our task as guardians is nearly at an end." A murmur of surprise and dismay rippled through the crowd. A young woman cradling a baby in her arms called out, "But what does this mean for us? Are we safe now, or in more danger than ever?" Astrid stepped forward, her star-filled eyes scanning the faces of her people. "The closing of the Bifrost means that the immediate threat from other realms has passed, but it also means that we must stand on our own, without the direct aid of the gods." As she spoke, a shimmer of light appeared beside them. The villagers gasped as the form of Heimdall, guardian of the Bifrost, materialized. "Well spoken, young Astrid," Heimdall's deep voice resonated across the hillside. "You have both grown much since I first chose you for this task." Arna bowed his head in respect. "Heimdall, we are honored by your presence. Have you come to reclaim your power from us?" The god's golden eyes crinkled with a smile. "No, young Arni. The power I bestowed upon you and your sister has become a part of you. It has grown and changed, just as you have." Astrid's brow furrowed in confusion. But if the Bifrost is closing, surely our task is complete. Heimdall shook his head, his gaze sweeping over the village. Your task as guardians of the Bifrost may be ending, but your role as protectors of Midgard is far from over. The challenges you have faced, the wisdom you have gained, these were preparation for the path that lies ahead. A hush fell over the crowd as they absorbed the god's words. Old Eric stepped forward, his rheumy eyes bright with unshed tears. What path is that, great Heimdall? What future awaits our young guardians? Heimdall's expression grew serious. The 9 realms are changing. The barriers between worlds may be strengthening, but the echoes of what has passed will resonate for ages to come. Midgard needs guardians who understand these changes, who can guide their people through the dawn of a new era. As he spoke, the Bifrost flared brightly one last time before fading entirely, leaving behind only a shimmer in the air where it once stood. The villagers gasped, some crying out in dismay. Arne felt a weight settle on his shoulders, a mix of responsibility and determination. We understand, Heimdall. We will continue to protect and guide our people, even without the Bifrost. Astrid nodded, standing tall beside her brother. We've learned so much, about courage, wisdom, and the strength that comes from unity. We'll use these lessons to lead Fjordheim into this new dawn. Heimdall smiled, a look of pride crossing his usually stoic features. You have grown from children to true guardians. The Allfather himself would be proud of your progress. As the god began to fade, returning to Asgard one last time, he left them with parting words. Remember, Arne and Astrid, the greatest power lies not in godly gifts, but in the hearts of those who stand for what is right. Guard the dawn of this new age well. With a final flash of light, Heimdall vanished, leaving behind a village on the cusp of a new era. Arne and Astrid turned to face their people, their eyes shining not just with the remnants of Heimdall's power, but with a new inner strength. People of Fjordheim, Arne called out, his voice strong and clear. A chapter of our history has closed, but a new one begins today. Astrid continued, we may no longer be guardians of the Bifrost, but we remain guardians of our home, our traditions, and our future. An elderly woman stepped forward, her face etched with concern. But how will we face the future without the protection of the gods? Arne smiled gently. The gods have not abandoned us, good mother. They've given us the tools and wisdom to stand on our own, and we are stronger for it. Remember the frost giant child we befriended, Astrid added, the Einherjar who shared their wisdom, the storm we calmed with our lullaby. These experiences have prepared us for whatever comes next. As they spoke, the sun rose fully above the horizon, bathing Fjordheim in golden light. The villagers straightened, hope replacing fear in their eyes. Old Eric raised his staff, his voice cracking with emotion. Then let us embrace this new dawn, under the guidance of Arne and Astrid, guardians not just of the Bifrost, but of our very future. A cheer went up from the crowd, echoing across the fjord. Arne and Astrid stood hand in hand, watching as their people dispersed, ready to begin a new day in this new era. It's not going to be easy, Arne said softly to his sister. Astrid nodded, a determined smile on her face. No, it won't be. But we're ready for it. Together, there's nothing we can't face. As they made their way down the hill, the twins knew that while one journey had ended, another was just beginning. They were no longer children thrust into an extraordinary role, but leaders shaped by their experiences, ready to guide their people into the dawn of a new age. The Bifrost may have faded, but its legacy lived on in the hearts and minds of Fjordheim's guardians. And as the sun rose on this new chapter, Arne and Astrid stood ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring, armed with the wisdom of the gods, the strength of their experiences, and the unwavering support of their people.